Thank you for tuning into my channel. I'm Andy. This is Persuaded Apologetics, and we are going to be talking about the Edict of Milan.
Michelle? Is a whole...
Now you might ask, this is a Catholic apologetics channel. What does the Edict of Milan really have to do with Catholic apologetics? And if you're a Catholic and you've been a Catholic your whole life, you might not know. But as an evangelical, I used to tell people, hey, we can actually trace the beginning of Catholicism to a point in time. It was started by Emperor Constantine of the Roman Empire. When he wanted to create peace in the land, he came out with the Edict of Milan, which merged paganism with the Christian faith. Then we get Catholicism, and this all happened because Constantine makes Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire. And I think these are dangerous myths. I think that I'm hearing evangelicals say them less and less, but they're still out here. I'm looking through Catholic apologetics, and I see the Edict of Milan brought up a lot. And a lot of the times an apologist will say, well, the Edict of Milan just tolerated Christianity. It didn't make it the official religion of the Roman Empire. But I rarely see those same apologists actually pull up the text, read the text, give you the history behind the text. Why was the Edict of Milan even around? And hopefully I can accomplish all of those things for you today. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the edict, because I think that's enough to clear up a lot of the misconceptions. When I edit the video, I'll stick the timestamp for where I'm going to be done reading the edict. If you're already familiar with it and you just don't feel like listening to me read the entire document, that's fine. It'll take me a few minutes. Also, there's a lot of words in this edict that are hard to say, and I'm not exactly proficient, apparently, in the English language. So I'm going to leave all the bloopers in for your enjoyment. So here we go. When we, Constantine and Licinius, emperors, had an interview at Milan and conferred together with respect to the good and the security of the commonwealth, it seemed to us, amongst those things that are profitable to mankind in general, the reverence paid to the divinity merited our first and chief attention, and that it was proper that the Christians and all others should have liberty to follow that mode of religion which to each of them appeared best, so that that God who is seated in the heavens might be benign and propitious to us, and to everyone under our government. And therefore we judged it a salutary measure, and one highly consonant to right reason, that no man be denied leave of attaching himself to the rites of the Christians, or to whatever other religion his mind directed him. That thus the supreme divinity, to whose worship we freely devote ourselves, might continue to vouchsafe his favor and beneficence to us. And accordingly we give you to know that, without regard to any provisos in our former orders to you concerning the Christians, all who choose that religion are to be permitted, freely and absolutely, to remain in it, and not to be disturbed in any ways, or molested. And we thought it fit to be thus special in the things committed to your charge, that you might understand that the indulgence which we have granted in matters of religion to the Christians is ample and unconditional, and perceive at the same time that the open and free exercise of their respective religions is granted to all others, as well as to the Christians. For it benefits the well-ordered state and the tranquility of our times, that each individual be allowed, according to his own choice, to worship the divinity. And we mean not to derogate aught from the honor due to any religion or its votaries, I'm not sure. Moreover, with respect to the Christians, we formerly gave certain orders concerning the places appropriated to their religious assemblies. But now we will that all persons who have purchased such places, either from our exchequer, or from anyone else, to restore them to the Christians without money demanded or price claimed, and that this be formed or performed peremptorily, I'm not sure, and unambiguously. And we will also that they who have obtained any right to such places by gift, do forthwith restore them to the Christians, reserving always to such persons who have either purchased for a price or gratuitously acquired them, to make application to the judge of the district, if they look on themselves as entitled to any equivalent from our beneficence. All those places are, by your intervention, to be immediately restored to the Christians. And because it appears that, besides the places appropriated to religious worship, the Christians did possess other places, which belonged not just to individuals, but to their society in general, that is, to their churches. We comprehend all such within the regulation aforesaid, and we will that you cause them all to be restored to their society or churches, and that without hesitation or controversy, provided always that the persons making restitution without a price paid shall be at liberty to seek indemnification from our bounty. In furthering all which things, for the behoof of the Christians, you are to use your utmost diligence, to the end that our orders be speedily obeyed, and our gracious purpose in securing the public tranquility promoted. So shall that divine favor in affairs of the mightiest importance we have already experienced continue to give success to us, and in our success make the commonwealth happy. And that the tenor of this our gracious ordinance may be known unto all, we will that you cause it by your authority to be published everywhere. You might not have expected it to be that short, but it really is that short. What did that take me, like a couple minutes to read? That's the Edict of Milan, and that's all it says. And so there's a few points for the evangelicals especially, and some Protestants who think that this is where like the Catholic Church was made with Constantine, when he makes Catholicism the official, or Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire, thus creating Catholicism, there's a few points I want to bring up that I think are really relevant. The first point is that nowhere in the document does Constantine or Licinius, this is a document that they both created together, it was a meeting, it actually isn't a document, I'll get into that here in just a minute. They never, ever even suggest that they're making Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire. The second point that's important to make is that this document treated Christians and people who are not Christians equally, right? I have 3 quotes for you from the document that I just read. The first one is that it seemed to us, amongst those things that are profitable to mankind in general, that the reverence paid to the divinity merited our first and chief attention, and that it was proper that the Christians and all others should have liberty to follow that mode of religion, which to each of them appeared best. They're giving a liberty for anybody to choose whatever religion they want, whether that's Christianity, paganism, or otherwise. Second quote, therefore, we judged it a salutary measure, and one highly consonant to right reason, that no man should be denied leave of attaching himself to the rites of the Christians, or to whatever other religion his mind directed him. And here's the third quote. For it benefits the well-ordered state and the tranquility of our times that each individual be allowed, according to his own choice, to worship the divinity, and we mean not to derogate aught from the honor due to any religion or its votaries, or votaries. I'm not sure how you say that word. But this really doesn't sound like somebody who's converted to Christianity and is now interested in making Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire. And now what he's going to do for the sake of peace is force everybody to be Christian, and you get these pagan influences that meld with Christianity. Constantine and Licinius are telling everybody, and by the way, this is actually from Licinius, not Constantine, but it's a result of both Licinius and Constantine. Again, we'll get to that here in a moment. This isn't them saying, hey, pagans, we're all going to be Christians now. That's not what the letter is about, and a lot of evangelicals make it sound like the Edict of Milan is telling pagans, hey, guess what? Now you're all Christians, too bad. That's not what's happening by any means. The third point I want to make is that Christians, both evangelical, Protestant, Orthodox, Catholic, we should all be overjoyed. Because while it treats the religious freedom of people from any religion equally, it doesn't treat every single religion equally. Because Christians have just undergone a lot of persecution, and there was a lot taken from the Christian community. And Constantine and Licinius were ordering that the properties that were seized as a result of the persecution, wherever they are, whether they've been sold to another person after seized or gifted to another person, be restored, right, to the Christians, which is a wonderful thing. You should be overjoyed. You should say, hey, that's a wonderful thing that Licinius and Constantine did. You should have no problem with that kind of thing. So let's talk a little bit about the history of the Edict of Milan. What led up to its creation? The story starts with Caesar Augustus. Caesar Augustus makes the Roman Empire an empire. He's the first emperor of the Roman Empire, and he wants to command people's respect, so he makes Roman paganism the forefront of the Roman Empire, at least its official religion, and he tries to convince people that he's like a demigod or a god, like he's a son of a god, so he can command respect, and he accomplishes this. He accomplishes this very well. Sorry, guys. Skip forward to the 3rd century, we find Diocletian. Diocletian was a pretty bad guy, but he wants to return to the days of Augustus. And Augustus, of course, because he put the Roman paganism at the forefront of the empire, the official religion of the Roman Empire, and deifies himself, he wants to accomplish this, and he sees Christianity as a risk. And so he severely persecutes the Christian faith. And all Christians, obviously. He tries to make himself look like a god. I don't know how successful he was because I didn't read anything about that. But he decides that the Roman Empire is too large for just him to rule. So he divides the Roman Empire into the east and into the west. He decides that he's going to rule from the east, and he appoints a fella named Maximian to rule the west. Yeah, I'm not getting that mixed up. Skip forward, years and years later, turns out Diocletian was not a god or a demigod, and like all men, he falls ill and he comes close to death, and he realizes that he can't really rule anymore because of his illness. Maximian is also getting old, and they both resign from power, oddly enough. What happens in the wake of them resigning from power is not what is intended. It sparks a violent conflict like this. And that violent conflict rages on for years. Towards the end of this conflict, there's basically three contenders for the Roman throne to be the emperor of the Roman Empire. You have Constantine, who is the son of Constantius, yeah. You have Maxentius, who is the son of Maximian, yeah. These names are hard to say, guys. And you have a fella named Licinius. They're all fighting together. A lot of people have died. They all consider themselves to be Roman emperors. Constantine goes to battle with Maxentius. I'm going to write the name up here just in case I'm getting that wrong, because I am so confused with these names. And this is where the famous story of Constantine's conversion comes from, or at least what led eventually to the conversion of Constantine. Constantine sees a vision in the sky, and in Latin, I don't remember the Latin, but it says, "By this sign conquer," and it's the sign of the cross. Constantine then has all of his soldiers paint the cross on their shields, and then he goes to battle against his rival emperor, and he wins by a landslide. And Maxentius, whichever one it is, I'm so confused. He loses the battle, but he doesn't die himself, and he retreats. But while he's running from Constantine, he crosses a bridge, he falls over the bridge, and drowns. Should have taken some swimming classes. He dies. Now, Constantine and Licinius are the only two contenders for the throne remaining. But they stop and they see some wisdom in the two-emperor system that Diocletian set up because of how large the Roman Empire is. And so they call a truce, and they set to meet in Milan. And there's 3 meetings in Milan. And so you have the third meeting is the meeting where they decide on this religious freedom. Now, the Edict of Milan isn't really an edict in the strict Roman sense. We don't have any evidence that the Edict of Milan was some sort of legally binding document that was signed by both emperors, and we don't have any extant records of that or copies of that. The only way we know what the Edict of Milan was because Licinius sent orders to Nicomedia after the Edict of Milan, or after they met in Milan, commanding every single thing that I read in the Edict of Milan. In fact, what I read as the Edict of Milan is that letter he sends to Nicomedia. Now, God bless a man named Lactantius, who is a historian. Constantine hires him to educate his son, and he writes a book that's called De Moribus Persecutorum. And in the 48th chapter, he records Licentius, or not Licentius. Now I'm confused in the names. The Roman emperor that is not Constantine, the letter he sends to Nicomedia. He has a copy of that letter, and he records it in the 48th chapter, and that's how we know what the Edict of Milan was. So let's just recap about the Edict of Milan. Did it set up Christianity as the Roman Empire's official religion? No. Did it combine paganism with Christianity? No. Is this the result of the conversion of both Roman emperors? No. In fact, years later, Constantine catches Licinius, that's his name, Licinius, killing Christians, and he hunts down Licinius and kills him for it because he breaks the law. The letter is clear that this is a decision made by both emperors on the basis of the empire being more peaceful. They're making this out of prudence, not out of conversion, not out of trying to force anybody into a particular religion. In fact, if they tried to force people into being Christian, this would seem to go against the very heart of the letter and what they were attempting to communicate and accomplish. Anyways, for those of you who didn't know any of this, I hope I made the Edict of Milan easier for you to understand. God bless. Stop saying it's when the Roman Catholicism was created. Just cut that out. Anyways, have a good day.